Hey everyone, it's Sean Sullivan, your host of Sullivan's Unheard Voices. Now I'm about to sit down for a really cool interview with Doug Campbell about alpacas, and he's from the Alpacas of Oregon. We're going to talk about some really cool stuff. Now, we missed the first 30 seconds of the interview due to technology problems. However, this is so good, we had to pick up right where the technology started. So, Doug, thank you again very much for being a part of this interview process. And I hope you all enjoy this video as much as I did.
So, as I was saying, I started dating my wife, who had an alpaca farm before I met her. And when they got divorced, they split their herd in half. And she was now living in an apartment, but boarding them on a farm in Hillsboro, 45 minutes away.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so they had 10 of them. She had 10 of them. And she introduced me to them. This was 28 years ago. I'd never seen it before.
Okay.
So she showed me them. I said, wow, they're amazing. They're really cute. She had me actually go into a field with like 30 male alpacas. And I just started jogging for some reason, and they all surrounded me and jogged with me.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So I felt like I was hearing the theme to Born Free in my head. So I thought I was taken with them. I thought they were really cute, but I said, you're now living in this apartment. You're paying somebody else to care for them. When are you going to sell them?
Right.
It was a logical question.
Yeah.
She said, honey, I need your help.
Yeah.
Can you help me name them? Well, once you name them, they're yours.
100%.
Right.
There's no going back.
So she knows what she was doing.
That's awesome.
So we're the first alpaca farm in the United States with animals registered with Star Wars names because of me.
Oh, that's awesome. So are all of them registered with Star Wars?
No, we've run. I mean, this was 20 years ago. We've run through
all of them.
Almost all the Star Wars names. So we do various themes. A lot of musical ones. We did a lot from the Pirates of the Caribbean at one point.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're starting on some with Game of Thrones and stuff like that. But that was, so for me, I was like, full stop, farm with a bunch of animals, that's nothing but work. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Fast forward 8 years later, we're now married. We have our second kid. I went, okay, we can try it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking 2-3 years max, and then we're back in that cul-de-sac in like a swamp.
Yeah.
And 20 years later, we're still here. So the thing about them is, so my mind was, that's nothing but work. You're going to get up at 5 and milk the cow and chase down the chickens. And with alpacas, if you're going to raise livestock, this is as easy as it gets.
Okay.
So you basically clean it up, that barn behind me, for 40 to 50 animals on an average day. In the summertime is 30 minutes. And in the winter, it's an hour, and that's feeding them as well.
Okay.
And you can do it on your timetable. So have you got an hour to take care of a bunch of animals? Yeah. I went, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like their lifespan,
how
long do they live?
So they live 15 to 20 years on average.
Okay.
So kind of longer than most dogs.
Yeah.
They are camelids, so they're descendants of camels. So obviously a camel. So you guys, they're in the Andes in the South America is where they're from. Peruvians are the ones that domesticate them, but they're throughout the Altiplano of the high Andes. So they evolved. Basically, a camel got to the Andes. Obviously, an animal adapted to the Sahara is not at home at 14 or 15,000 feet, in the high Andes. So they evolved into guanacos and vicuñas.
Okay.
A guanaco domesticated is a llama. A vicuña domesticated is an alpaca. It's one family. The alpacas are the fancy sheep.
Okay.
So you raise them to give them a haircut. You shear them once a year. Turn that into yarn. Knit with it. It's one of the warmest, softest things there is. So my wife, Suzanne, is a spinner. She likes to spin yarn. See all of our fiber around our living room here. We had 35 spinners here over the weekend. So spinning yarn and while I was doing alpaca tours in our backyard.
That's awesome. So, like, when you're saying there was a bunch of spinners here,
yes,
is that like an ongoing, reoccurring thing that if like people are interested in spinning yarn?
Well, so my wife's a member of the Aurora Colony Hand Spinners Guild. So it's a bunch of people that are into spinning yarn and dyeing. And there's knitters and weavers, and it's this old-timey guild.
Yeah.
It's a guild. There's over 200 members.
That's awesome.
So so my wife hosted a potluck on Saturday, and we just packed out the house with them. And it was an added kind of bonus for people who came to the farm for tours, because they got to see, well, this is why people raise them. You look at all these people making stuff out of their fiber.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've found about alpacas in general is they're the most sensory-friendly animal out there.
They tend to be, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've known, and tell me if this is your experience too.
Yeah.
My experience is, especially with like a lot of kids that are on the autism spectrum or have disabilities, a lot of animals would be standoffish. They don't want anything to do with them.
Right.
Alpacas are like, hey, I don't care. I'm going to come up and say hello.
Sure.
Yeah, which is a huge difference, I think.
Yeah, well, so what we do on our farm is we hand feed animals. Mm-hmm. So about 5 years ago, I became a professional alpaca tour guide.
Oh, nice.
So people sign up for an hour on our website, and they come, and you don't just go feed them through a fence and then get bored and go in their shop and buy some yarn or a sweater.
Which is, I have to say, a 99.9% of them, that's exactly what it is. And that is awesome.
So that's what most farms do. What we do is you get a guided tour. So myself, sometimes our 20-year-old son, Connor, also does tours. But people pay online, they pre-book an hour and pay for it. But what we offer is more of a sensory experience. You're surrounded by a dozen alpacas. You're getting to hand feed them and pet them, and we're teaching you about them the whole time and answering questions and kind of giving anecdotes about, like how we got into the business and all that. And at the end, you kind of visit the barn store. But that's, for a lot of people, that's therapeutic.
Yeah.
It just so happens it's open air. So for COVID, we closed for 2 weeks ever.
Oh, that's awesome.
The 2 weeks to stop the spread, never closed again. First 2 years of COVID, if I was open, we had 8 tours every single day, Wednesday through Sunday. And for about a 2-year period, you had to book 1 to 2 months in advance to get in, because all those kids who were locked out of school, well, what do you do with them? Go see the alpacas. You couldn't go see grandma at the retirement home, right? But you could have a family reunion on our farm. And we could host large numbers because you can spread out. And if you're uncomfortable, mask up. And it's totally doable. Alpacas are not at all susceptible to COVID.
Yeah.
They're actually super disease resistant, actually.
That's interesting.
Yeah, believe it or not, I don't know if it was OHSU or not, but one of the medical organizations developed a COVID therapeutic that's a nasal spray from the enzymes of alpacas. On our tour,
that's fascinating.
On the tour, I like to say, if they spit on you, no extra charge.
Now, how in terms of like the alpacas themselves, are they pretty self-sustaining in terms of the diet, or do you have to supplement the vegetables with like grain and things like that?
Well, so they're camelids, they're grazers, they're ruminants like a cow.
Yeah.
So they basically graze on grass. They have multiple stomachs. They chew their cud just like a cow. The difference is if a cow gets mad at you, it doesn't pull it up and spit it at you.
Okay.
And if you give them enough reason, yes, they'll spit at you.
Okay.
Day to day, they're not going to. So when I have people that come and go, are they going to spit at me? You experienced a llama.
Yeah.
Probably a guard llama in with a bunch of sheep protecting him, and they saw you as a threat and made you leave because he was protecting his people.
Yeah.
He was doing his job.
Yeah.
So that llama would also spit at me.
Yeah.
Which is why we don't raise llamas.
I get that.
Yeah.
And then in terms of with the way that they are in sort of the environment that they're in.
Yeah.
Like, do you need to worry about like the winter conditions, or they're pretty hardy to stick it out through the winter because of their coats, right?
Right. So I mean, the native habitat in the high Altiplano of the Andes, which is where they're native to, you're talking 2,000-3,000 feet above the top of Mount Hood. So most of those girls, we share Memorial Day weekend every year.
Okay.
Usually on Sunday, but we do it Memorial Day weekend, you got more time to recover. That's a long day. I think we sheared 50 animals this year. We've sheared up to 85 in the past.
Okay.
So it's a good 8 or a 9, 10, maybe 11-hour day, but we do it in one day. So you're taking anywhere from about 2 to 6 pounds off their back.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of these, you stick your fingers in and their fiber goes up, 4 or 5 inches.
Yeah.
So they're wearing one of the warmest, softest coats in nature.
Yeah.
Snow and ice and rain really aren't a challenge as long as they can get out of it if it's severe.
Okay.
I mean, if they were stuck, with ice and snow on their backs 24/7, yeah, they would. It would. But for a few hours or even a day or so, that's not an issue as long as they can take a break from it. So that's honestly, and that's the same reason why my wife liked it as a spinner, because yarn from an alpaca. That's the good whiskey on the top shelf you pay extra for.
Okay.
It's like the premium fabric. It's multiple times softer than something like wool, and it's just as warm, and it's a light or thinner layer is warmer.
So not only is it easier to work with the looms, it's actually warmer and more fibrous.
Really soft. Really soft.
Nice.
Yeah, there's only 3 things softer than an alpaca.
Oh, okay.
So silk, obviously.
Yeah.
Cashmere.
Okay.
So cashmere, you can have a goat or a rabbit. You get more off a goat.
Right.
Cashmere, I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3 times a year you shear them, but you could get 1 to 2 pounds off a cashmere goat. Alpacas, you're getting 4, 5, 6 pounds. A lot more. The wild version of it, the vicuña, is softer and finer. However, they have a guard hair that was, second coat, like a dog with a second coat.
Okay.
That you have to separate. That's been bred out of alpacas.
Oh, okay.
And the vicuña started with an animal that you only got to shear every 3 years, and the Peruvians basically focused on their best fiber animals breeding together until they made an animal, the alpaca, you shear every year.
Okay.
So kind of unique. Yeah. There's actually several things that are unique about them that just you don't hear with other mammals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, so I kind of told you about they are very smart for livestock.
Okay.
So if they're out in the pasture and it starts raining, they go in by themselves. They go back out by themselves. On a day-to-day, they come and go as they want. At night, they group up in the barn for safety. We don't have to tell them to do that,
So you're not out there having to herd them all the place. And everything. That's awesome.
Well, we have a border collie.
Yeah.
We've taught him not to herd them.
Okay.
Because that would stress them out. And they would also start looking over their shoulder and kick him and go, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Where sheep, for instance, you have to have a border collie to force them to come in out of the rain.
Yeah.
Because they're too dumb to do it.
Yeah, and they see it all the time.
Right. Alpacas are really smart. Or they really do learn. You can teach them things. And they're really, they're non-threatening.
Yeah.
Alpacas, 150 pounds on average, maybe a big male, 175, Llamas 2-3 times that size.
Yeah.
So I literally have held a llama that was over 7 feet tall and 450 pounds.
That's a lot.
So those are great for guarding your sheep and goats, because coyotes get in that pasture, or a Doberman or 2, they can kill them.
Oh, interesting.
We actually met somebody last week. We were talking about llamas protecting livestock.
Yeah.
I met a llama who actually faced down a mountain lion, lost an eye, but never stopped spitting and trampling and chased them off their property. And they said, I can up that. This guy, the friends of ours with 2 llamas, trampled a mountain lion to death.
That's fascinating.
So yeah, they get the size. Good protectors.
Yeah. And I would imagine even with here, in traditional farming settings, you have to worry about that kind of thing.
You do.
But with alpacas, they're kind of good at taking care of themselves and not needing that extra layer of protection, right?
Well, so if we had major problems, we might get llamas to protect them.
Okay.
But we rely on fencing. So the fencing we have is called no-climb fencing.
Oh, interesting.
And it's specifically designed so coyotes can't climb it. We hear coyotes around us every night.
Yeah.
We hear deer around us all the time. It's been a while, but maybe 15 years ago, we had a black bear in our front yard.
Okay.
there's a winery on our fence line.
Yeah.
Diane, the owner there, tells me about 3 times a year on their trail cams, they'll pick up mountain lions right next to us.
Okay.
Fortunately, we haven't had to deal with any of that. Our fencing's good. Actually, we know a breeder in Central Oregon had to shoot a mountain lion in the front yard.
Oh,
it took out several alpacas and several sheep, and it wasn't dragging them off and eating them; it was just killing them.
That's sad. I feel bad for the alpacas.
Yeah, the last thing I want to do is kill a mountain lion.
Yeah.
They're beautiful,
but
if you have to, you have to.
You have to. Yeah. There's no. Yeah. Especially if it's just killing for sport at that point.
Right.
It's,
not normal.
Not normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're around. They are around.
And then what do you do with all of the wool that you collect? Is it called wool? It's called something else.
It's not. Wool is specific to sheep. Alpaca is just called alpaca.
Okay.
So it's alpaca fleece or alpaca fiber.
Okay.
So my wife spins. So a lot of that. So on shearing day, we had several spinners from her guild here that helped sort through fiber. In the past, they bought fleeces right off the backs of animals as they're shorn. There's certain colors that are rare and harder to get, like grays and blacks. And people go, I want that one in there. So I think everybody who came for the day and helped shear, I think everybody went home with some sort of fleece as a thank you.
That's awesome.
But Suzanne and her partner, Jane, who's also a spinner, started the Oregon wool and fiber mill in January on a property. We actually have a big shed that has a couple of machines called a picker and a rover. So a lot of the hand kind of monotonous part of working fiber is done on 2 large machines, and they can process both wool and alpaca fiber here up to the point where it's ready to be spun. So it's called roving. So it looks like a big, long, hairy taco.
Yeah.
No, burrito.
Okay. That's awesome.
But so a lot of the people that they're attracting are spinners from their guild and other places. People who are into have sheep, they'll bring their wool and they want to maybe make it a little more exciting, so they add alpaca to it. We can do that here too.
Yeah. And one of the things I always like to talk to people about is the importance of supporting local businesses.
Sure.
As opposed to the large sort of chain kind of things, right? Why do you feel it's important to support local community and local groups such as yours, like coming for a tour and stuff like that?
Sure. Well, it's for us, it's supporting us is doing something unique you really can't do anyplace else. So we kind of have a unique experience. But obviously, especially through the pandemic, we learned the importance of kind of sticking up and helping your neighbors and helping each other out. And local communities are strong, then the whole country's better. Most people are employed by small businesses, and like Suzanne and I are very much mom and pops. We're worried about buying the next load of hay. So we appreciate all the support we get, and the nice thing is people find this really enriching, and a lot of people come over and over and over again.
It's worth the trip for sure.
Thank you.
So let me ask you, so you're saying you have to augment with hay?
Sure.
Is there a lot of hay involved, or is it
so right now we just had 2 babies 2 weeks ago. We're up to about 36 animals.
Okay.
So we average 40 to 50. We generally buy about 6 tons of hay 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay.
Which it seems like a lot, but it's not really that much hay. Alpacas are super efficient eaters. So 110-pound bale of hay, which would be for 2 or 3 horses, could literally feed our whole herd for a day. The thing that got me is the poop. They're only 150 pounds.
Yeah.
And the poop looks like rabbit poop.
Yeah.
And it's actually super great fertilizer.
Okay.
You don't even have to compost it.
Oh, interesting.
You can scoop that up and put it on your vegetable garden or your roses, right now.
Yeah.
You can see from our barn right here, Allura Winery.
Yeah.
In the past, they have traded wine for poop for their gardens, and David likes it there, so we really like him. Good trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you find a lot of people asking for the fertilizer through that?
Yep.
How does that work?
Well, so if they have a community garden or something, we'll charge them some money, but they would pull in a pickup truck. I'd load up with my tractor and dump hay in the back of the pickup truck. Hay, poop in the back of their pickup truck. Or you could bring with a little container and a shovel and go out and scoop it yourself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And there are people that sell alpaca manure at
farmers
markets. But, and we've tried that, but I don't like handling poop.
That's a lot of work. Especially, that's the side of things where you would have to be, dedicated to just doing that.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's a whole side business. I guess we do everything you can do with an alpaca except eat them.
Yeah.
And we don't really do a lot with the poop.
You got it. And then the other thing that I was always curious about is, so if you're going through a herd of 50.
Yeah.
Are they pretty much common, or do they have their own distinct personalities?
Yeah, they're all different.
So, talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, so alpacas, like llamas, they're all different. There's a spectrum of personalities. Mm-hmm. Some are very, very much people-oriented. So by hand feeding them, they get used to people, and they associate you with treats.
Okay.
So they're going to come up looking at your hands. Hi, how you doing? Where's your food? Hey, you're very attractive. Where's your food? And that's kind of the difference. On a lot of alpaca farms, if you don't do that, they're not necessarily going to come up to you.
Yeah.
But that makes them go, oh, people, I like the treats. I'm going to go hang out. And as they hang out, then they get more accustomed, for instance, to people petting them. So that's why, if right now I was doing this on a tour, we'd be probably talking about the same sorts of things, but we'd have 12 alpacas around them. We'd be giving them food. And we primarily sell a grain that's alfalfa based.
Yeah.
That we don't sell. We provide it on tours. That is basically, it has a bunch of nutrients that are good for alpacas. You can order it through the local Wilco farm store.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And that is like ice cream to them.
Oh,
so they go, oh, hi. And they come up for food. And a lot of people tend to project their feelings on them. Like, oh, he loves me. She wants me to hug her. No. She's only interested in the food in your hand. And if you don't have any food, she's going to go, no touchy.
Yeah.
I need a bribe. Yeah.
So is there a right way to pet or interact with an alpaca?
Yeah, sure. Well, so if you have some sort of food, backs and shoulders are the best place. Everybody wants to pet their head and give them a hug.
Yeah, but they like that.
That's what our border collie's for.
Yeah.
They don't really like their heads touched.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, they're head shy. You put a hand around their head, they're going to go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So we also use that because if they're making you feel uncomfortable, you just put your hand in their face and they'll back up.
Oh, interesting.
So they go, okay. So there's always a pecking order and a hierarchy in every herd of alpacas.
Okay.
With the girls, we have one female that is always the alpha. No matter what group she's in, her name's Coco. Okay. She rises to the top. And it's not about age or size. It's purely about attitude.
She has that sass.
Yes.
I love that.
So if two alpacas are testing each other, so maybe the beta, the second one in charge says, hey, today I'm in charge. And they stand there and goes, no, I'm in charge. That food, I want that. No, it's mine. Oh, spit.
Oh, interesting.
So they're literally pulling up their cud and spitting at each other. And if they're really challenging each other, maybe they'll wrap their necks around each other, do a little screaming, ah! But usually it's over in about 5 minutes at most. Usually it's much shorter than that. Okay. This would be a real a struggle for dominance, for being the leader. Yeah. Well, at the end, one of the alpacas is going to walk away grossed out, like, oh, I was so disgusting, because okay. The other one is Coco, and she goes, I don't care. Yeah. I'm still getting whatever I came for, and you ain't stopping me. That attitude makes her the alpha. Her grandmother was the alpha. Her mother was the alpha. She's taught her baby of the young ones. She's the alpha. Because they go, oh, that's how mom gets what she wants. Yeah. So she's super kind of dominant. She can be a little overwhelming. But she's awesome. We'd never sell her. Yeah. If we want those alpacas, the females, to do anything, we just get Coco to do it. We shake the grain bucket. She's going to come right up. They all follow her. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we're talking about manure. Where the alpha goes poop, they all poop in the same place. Easy
fascinating.
Cleanup. Yeah. Well, if you think about it, if they're up in the Andes, they don't have poop trails everywhere leading back to the herd. They're all in one kind of area.
One spot, so that they're not traceable. Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And even their like fights for dominance aren't really fights. They're just like little.
Yeah, they're. Yes.
Yeah.
Now boys.
Yeah.
Different level.
Okay.
Boys have to live separately once they're mature.
Okay.
So we have a blood registry in this industry.
Uh-huh.
So you draw blood, you send that in. When that registration comes back, every ancestor on both sides of the lineage is shown there. So someone like my wife, whose MBA thesis was running an alpaca farm, and did all this research, she can look at that registration and pick out 3 superior animals, and that makes this one so much more valuable. So it's what's kept alpacas very expensive for the first 30 years in the country.
Yeah.
So you would basically want to make sure you don't want to closely breed related animals.
Okay.
So you look at that registry. That one, you don't want to inbreed, obviously, in any breeding program. But it's different because the males aren't fighting just to be the ones to get the food. They're fighting to breed.
Gotcha.
Much stronger drive.
Yeah, the game's a little more... There's a little more consequences to the game.
Yes, a lot more. So males, you're talking WWE wrestling moves. Okay. So they will chest butt. They'll wrap their necks around each other. They'll start by spitting. And now they're screaming and tackling each other. And they're kind of, you hear them like yelling at each other. And they're ultimately going after each other's junk.
Okay.
So alpaca's teeth grow throughout their life. They have a hard palate on top, no teeth. Same with llamas and camels.
Okay.
They have molars back there, but no top teeth.
Right.
Their bottom teeth, if you ever see a llama with their teeth sticking way up, no one's maintained them. You have to file them down a couple times in their life.
Okay.
With males, once they're mature at 3, you have to start checking their lower jaw for what's called an adapted fighting tooth.
Okay.
That you want to file down, or there's a machine, some of the shearers can clip them for you.
Okay.
Basically, if you don't take that out, males can castrate each other.
Oh.
So when you say more consequences, yes.
That's interesting.
Very kind of harsh.
Yeah.
But we've never had a problem with that because we pay attention to it.
Yeah.
A lot of farms will, if they have a bunch of males, will geld them. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to breed, but they're also going to take down the testosterone. It's going to lower the fighting. We choose not to do that.
Yeah.
We just decide, you know what, we're going to sell 80 to 90% of our males.
Okay.
It just keeps the fighting down. And just because he's not a breeder on our farm doesn't mean he's not going to be on somebody else's.
I got you. And then something else I heard once, and I think it bears repeating.
Sure.
If you're thinking about getting an alpaca, don't get just one.
Right.
That's just, correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
But that's really, really, really mean.
You're right. So alpacas are super social. Even males, unless it's an extreme situation where you have a male that's physically injuring other males, they need a group. We've never had to really separate males for any extended period of time. The truth is they fight, but we make sure they take out that fighting tooth so they're not going to really injure each other. And the truth is, over time, they kind of figure out their pecking order. For the most part, they respect the hierarchy. They can be nice. They calm down.
Yeah.
But if it's breeding season like right now, they tend to be a little more agitated. And especially if one of those girls decides to sit by the fence line and tease them. And go, hi, boys. Well, it's time to fight. So,
which you know they do.
Well, they do. Sure. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, males are just as soft. Their fiber's just as good. Honestly, that's one thing is if you want a bunch of cool looking animals and you don't really have to pay a lot of attention to them, male alpacas are perfect.
Awesome.
Girls, almost every girl's going to be a breeder. Unless there's something physically wrong with her. She's going to be a mom because you want to prove her and that makes her more valuable. And, if we want to sustain our herd, you got to breed to sell them. And we sell 5 to 10 a year. And it's always good to have a fresh crop of babies because, come on, alpaca babies, they're so cute.
And how did you, so like when you got to, you were talking about there's a bloodline registry.
Yes.
Like, is that something that's like, I guess I'm having a hard time understanding exactly how that came to be.
Sure.
You know?
So exotic animals, generally are very expensive.
Okay.
So 40 years ago, 50, 45 years ago, llamas started getting exported into the U.S. They were super expensive, but within about 3, 4, 5 years, what was really expensive is now like $500.
Okay.
So before they ever exported, Peruvians allowed exportation of alpacas. In the U.S., they set up a blood registry. So when I register that animal, I draw blood, put it on a blood card. It goes in with the paperwork. It goes into a national registry.
So you actually have to mail the blood to like Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
And I'm just making up
I think it's Kentucky, if I remember. I could be wrong about that.
And then they get the blood and they actually do the DNA.
Yes.
That's amazing. So
the thing is once you've got your animals in there, then you also register the descendants and So if we had an animal that was stolen, and it showed up across country in Tennessee, and there was a vet who checked it, they're ear tagged like a dog, a microchip. Boom, it's numbers on there. They can tell exactly what bloodline it came from and whose farm it was owned by.
Somebody stole one of your alpacas?
No, I'm just hypothetical.
Okay.
Well, we've never had that happen. People have stolen them.
That's wild.
First, so these came in the U.S. in the late 80s.
Okay.
For the first 30 years, an average breeding age female was $15,000 to $20,000.
Oh.
On average. And they could be more.
Okay.
So they were quite expensive. And it was around 2000, really around the dot-com crash era and the housing bubble of the 2000s. People kind of looked at that and went, oh, that's not sustainable. So for the most part, there still is the show alpaca. If you want to still buy the $30,000 show alpaca, they're out there. But like us, most of the animals we sell are, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, not $15,000, $20,000 anymore.
So there's still like this second layer of like show alpacas where they have like competitions.
Oh yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So that's always been a thing with alpacas.
Okay.
Big time. So back when they first came to the country, especially for the first 3 decades, you're talking about an animal that's as expensive as a racehorse. So you want to really justify that. What do you want to do? You want to stand out and you want to make a name for your farm. You want to win in the show ring. So these are specific alpaca shows. They're not the county fair. Yeah. This is a specific alpaca show. So by going in the ring and winning and coming out with ribbons, the other 80 farms that are at the show go, ooh, that guy won again? Oh, I want to breed to that one. Oh, his offspring,
like a dog show.
Oh, it's very similar.
Oh, interesting.
Very similar. And you do lead them around just like a dog show on a lead. And the difference is that with an alpaca, the physical animal is 50% of the judging. The fiber on its back is the other 50%.
Oh, interesting.
Because that's why you raise them.
Okay.
So you see the judge, there's like a dozen animals in the ring. She's going and pulling a lock from each one, and she has them down her arm, and she's comparing them back and forth. And there's a whole science to that.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that?
I've never judged, but we did show.
Okay.
So that was one of the ways my wife got me involved before we were married. She would go to these shows.
Yeah.
But she's an HR executive. Lots of stress, lots of people decisions, you get a lot of headaches, having to deal with other people's stuff.
Yeah.
She didn't want to go and spend her weekends stressed out on top of it, trying to show in the show ring. She thought it was super cutthroat because of the money and there was a lot of outside investment. Well, she would go and network, but she starts bringing me, Mr. Sales Guy.
Right.
So I've been in sales my whole career. I just talking to people, doing tours. It's like just another trade show for me. Right. It's easy. It's fun.
Yeah.
So she starts bringing me, and then pretty soon I'm bored because we're standing around talking to people about alpacas, which I'm like, it's great, but I'm not real excited. But there's a show. Yeah. Hey, honey, there's a show over there. Why don't we show them? She goes, yeah. Look at you doing that.
Yeah.
So she kind of got me involved with that. And really, when our second child was born 8 years later, he's now 21. I said, okay, we can try living in the country and do the farm. And like I said, it just we've been here for 20 years. So it's something, as somebody that knew nothing about him. Yeah. I obviously had a really good coach, a tutor. Right. But you learn by doing.
And sometimes that's like the best way.
Sure.
You just like, because I imagine you have that conversation, like, is it worth the risk? Is it worth coaching? Because like a lot of people don't understand, like once you take on a farm, there is a lot of risk.
Sure.
And there's a lot of expense that people don't really take into account, sure. Right? When you have a house in the suburb, you're just paying for the house in the community. Right. Out here, there's a lot more to worry about, like storm damage and all that other stuff.
Well, in every quarter, I need to come up with $3,000 worth of hay out there.
Yeah, every quarter?
Sure.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's 5-6 tons of hay. So, it's there's a lot of expenses. Mm-hmm. But, so about almost 5 years ago now. Yeah. So I was a lead technical salesman for a manufacturer for 20 years. Okay. And we were, as a company, very successful. A competitor from Minnesota bought us out. So I'm now looking for work. And my wife goes, why don't you just try doing the farm tours? Yeah. And I went, why? I was like, I can't. I've been here 20 years in this company and, 40 years in sales. I can't replace my income on the farm. I was wrong. Yeah. I was wrong on the first year. So the thing is we got a publicist during COVID. Yeah. We got on Good Day Oregon. We got on CBS News on Coin TV. Yeah. We got on Andy's Adventures, which is he's one of the weather guy on Fox. Yeah, yeah. He was so funny. So he came out and ran through. My wife showed him how to spin yarn, and I showed him how to scoop poop, and we were like, and he was just so funny. Anyway, so our female alpha, Coco, he's a short guy. Yeah. He was holding our bucket of grain, and she kept trying to stick her head in it. So he's spinning around in circles, trying to avoid her, going, no, Coco, no, Coco. That became his ad for his show. And like for a good year and a half, every time the spot for his show came on, somebody signed up for an alpaca tour.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so awesome.
It kind of snowballed. Well, so I told you my wife's MBA thesis was running an alpaca farm. Yeah. So 33 years ago, she designed our logo, the shape of the state of Oregon, with an alpaca in the middle of it, and named it Alpacas of Oregon. Google wasn't a thing in 33 years ago, and now people literally find us all over the world.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, we'll have somebody from like Australia, Southeast Asia, wherever. Yeah. And like they've researched us. They came to Oregon. We're like the second or third stop. Yeah. And we're a tiny little farm, but we're very fortunate. God's really blessed our endeavor here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you all are here. I know that you have a limited amount of time, so I want to wrap things up.
Sure.
But what would you like people to know?
Well,
let me ask this question first.
Yeah.
Website, and how do people get in contact with you?
Sure. So it's alpacasoforegon.com. Mm-hmm. So if you go there and you want to come to the farm, you just click on the tours page. It'll take you to a calendar. You open the calendar day, pick an hour, and book into it, and you prepay for it.
Very intuitive, folks.
Yes.
Very easy to follow.
So it's $15 per person. Kids 5 and under are half price. If you want to come and book the whole hour for a birthday party, you book for 10 and it's private. No one else can book in. And you could bring 30 people if you wanted to and pay for the extras. But that makes it a private experience.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we'll have memory care units here. We have retirement communities, lots of field trips for schools, 56th graders running around.
That's awesome.
We do actually this week alone. We've had 2 bachelorette parties here.
Oh, that's awesome!
From as far away as New Orleans.
I wouldn't have thought of bachelor. That's awesome.
We had now good on these guys. We had a bachelor party here once.
Oh, interesting.
Very different from the bachelor parties I attended.
I would be a little nervous before they showed up. But
Much more wholesome, yeah. But we get all ages. If you've got a 1-year-old in your arms, that baby's free.
Yeah.
But if it's walking around and interacting, then we say you want to pay for them. But people kind of fall in love with them.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that come from countries where they're not used to pets, like Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
A lot of people come and go, oh, they're really afraid at first, and they're really afraid of our border collie. By the end of the hour, they're feeding the alpacas, throwing the toy for the border collie, and they've got this new love for these animals that are so because they are interesting. They are interested in you. You got food. You can feed them. They're very tactile. We have people on the spectrum all the time. A lot of people really respond to interacting with animals. A lot of people centers them, and it kind of brings them down. I know for me, I feel like I kind of walk out there and my blood pressure lowers, and I just
100%.
Yeah, it's enriching.
Like, I'll never forget the first time I met an alpaca.
Yeah.
And it was just a totally unique experience because when I was a kid, a lot of animals didn't necessarily approach me, and I didn't have the courage or the ability to go approach them. So when I went to an alpaca farm as a little kid, and I went out there, and like 4 of them came up and said hello, and were like so sweet, and just sat. One of them actually sat with me.
Oh, that's awesome!
And I'll never forget that. It's the only animal ever that's ever done that.
Oh,
and so ever since then, I've always had a soft spot, and I've always wanted to learn more. So I really appreciate the opportunity today.
They're so cute.
They're amazing little creatures.
They are.
Yeah, and just awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on your show.
My pleasure.